Hello, citizens of the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak stepped out into the pouring rain and officially called the next election. While the Conservatives are calling all about delivering for you, current polling indicates that most of you do not believe them. So, let's take a stroll down memory lane over 14 years of Conservative leadership. David Cameron of the pre-Brexit era. Elected in 2010 to a country rattled by the financial crisis. His solution? Austerity. Austerity is a series of policies that aggressively attempts to end budget deficits by slashing public funding or raising taxes. So did austerity work at ending the deficit? 2 years after he resigned, but yes. Well, yes as in the day-to-day budget, which does not account for spending in long-term investment. So, the full budget, no, has never been in the positives for the past 14 years, which was quite confusing to understand. The goal was the day-to-day budget, and he got there, and legalized same-sex marriage along the way. Elected in 2015 with a majority, Cameron's plan of satisfying many in his party while fending off UKIP was a referendum on British membership of the EU. Cameron was a member of the Remain camp. His inspirational "let's stick together" shtick worked for the Scottish independence referendum. It's surely to work this time, and it didn't, and with that David Cameron resigned. Theresa May. Replacing Cameron in 2016, challenged with seeing Brexit through, May stated she would bring a positive vision for the future. Unfortunately for her, positive is not the term that can be used to describe her premiership. Upon entering office, she attempted to invoke Article 50 to leave the EU, which was struck down. In accordance with the ruling, she received Parliament's support, although support of May in Parliament wouldn't last long. She then shocked the nation by calling a snap election to strengthen her government, which initial polling said it would. But instead of the election leading to more positive visions, it led to her losing a governing majority. Now relying on the Northern Irish Democratic Unionists to keep her afloat, things went downhill faster than a bunch of people running for a wheel of cheese. Why do they do that? May was plagued with infighting from MPs and ministers from the day she entered number 10 to the day she left. She faced a confidence vote from her party, a confidence vote in the House. Her government negotiated a Brexit deal with the EU, and the vote for it led to the largest defeat in the House by a government in British history. A second attempt failed to pass, and a third attempt failed to pass. This as May lost 30 ministers during her under 3 years and finished her time as Prime Minister with the Brexit Party sweeping the Conservatives in European elections. Elections that the country wasn't supposed to participate in. May's original attempts at unifying the divides of the country, or at least her own party, completely failed, and she resigned, leaving a legacy of not finishing Brexit, but being strikingly resilient in the face of calamity. Boris Johnson, the former mayor of London and man who gets stuck on zipline during the Olympics. Boris Johnson, the former foreign secretary and man whose haircut makes headlines. Boris Johnson, the former prime minister and man who spoke at a business summit about how Peppa Pig looks like a hairdryer. He is the prime minister. While May was hampered by Brexit, Johnson was hampered by the COVID-19 pandemic. His initial approach of creating herd immunity in the public was quickly found to be a mistake, one that personally affected him, as he was sent to the ICU for 3 days with COVID. The government, in cooperation with AstraZeneca, created one of the first COVID vaccines. But his unsteady approach to the health crisis led to the UK having the 5th highest number of deaths. While his handling of the pandemic was met with mixed reviews, what was much more striking was the uncovering of the parties that him and members of his government participated in. What was quickly deemed Partygate, the government guidelines, which Johnson said must be followed at all times, were not always being followed by him or his government, becoming the first prime minister in living memory to have been found to have broken the law. Laws, funnily enough, that his government set. Discontent from the party grew as the scandals kept coming. The Downing Street refurbishment controversy found that he had spent £112,000 on renovating his residence into a high society haven and did not properly report it. And the Chris Pincher scandal arose from Deputy Whip of the Conservative Party being accused of sexually assaulting 2 women, but it was quickly discovered that many previous allegations against him had been told to Johnson, which he initially denied knowing and later admitted to ignoring. Johnson was called a vacuum of integrity by one of his own MPs, and his government collapsed, with 36 MPs resigning from their positions in government in a 24-hour period. For 2 days, he refused to back down, until eventually he did, with his head held high. Liz Truss. Somehow we are just now arriving at the most short-lived premiership. Liz Truss arrived at number 10 with a nation ready for boring after the famously unboring Boris Johnson. Instead, she created an environment so dizzying it was hard to keep up. She is notable for 3 things during her 49-day blip as Prime Minister. First being that she was the 15th and final PM to be appointed by Queen Elizabeth II, who died 2 days after her appointment. Second, for bringing about an impressive level of economic turmoil so quickly into her time in office. Truss brought in a mini budget of £45 billion of unfunded tax cuts, a part of her plan of growth, and growth, which led to an economic meltdown. Markets panicked and the pound fell to its lowest point against the US dollar. Truss then U-turned, and most of her mini-budget was scrapped. Third, and finally, as her time in office looked short-lived, a head of lettuce was live-streamed, with the title, Live. Can Liz Truss outlast a lettuce? Plot twist, she didn't. The lettuce, sporting a blonde wig and crown, was victorious over Liz Truss. On the day of her resignation, the Daily Star tabloid, which created the lettuce livestream, headlined, "Lettuce wins as Liz leaves." Rishi Sunak. We now arrive to the present with Sunak, a man who prefers drinking Mexican Coca-Cola because it's made with cane sugar rather than high fructose corn syrup, which is a real quote that he said. Sunak has, if nothing else, lasted longer than Liz Truss. Being the 5th Prime Minister in 8 years, the hope was that he could be a unity candidate that would reverse the misfortunes of the party, both in policy and polling. Even with his remarkable stability compared to his predecessors, the Conservatives have continued to languish behind Labour and are single digits ahead of right-wing Reform UK. While inflation has gone down and GDP growth up, under his watch, NHS waitlists have continued to grow, local governments are teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, as some have already fallen off, and the high-speed rail project for Northern England was cancelled. Sunak's immigration plan of stopping the boats was to send immigrants to Rwanda, which has been more a £310 million investment into Rwanda than an immigration policy, as it has yet to have a single flight leave the ground. It's been quite the journey the last 14 years. Brexit, pandemic, partying during pandemic, lettuce, and as the polls suggest, it is now goodbye. So long, Conservatives.